Hey guys, welcome to 6 Minutes for Monday, September 26th. Jason Fulmore, S.E. Russell, and if you can't tell by my voice, it was a long weekend at the Elite 8 duels up in Atlanta. Some fantastic wrestling. I'm sure coaches have a much worse voice than I do today, but it was loud. There was a ton going on, and that's what we're covering today. So it's not going to be a highlight video. I've highlighted about 8 matches or so of Southeast wrestlers who competed. There were so many Southeast kids that were competing. I couldn't get them all into a single video. Hopefully I'll be able to capture them and get some of their clips into the actual highlight reel that I hope to produce by tomorrow, maybe, certainly by Wednesday. So first and foremost, I think hats off to Cliff Rutwell, Compound, Shane Chittum, and the gang who put the event on. It was fantastic. The number of just absolutely quality matches that occurred was awesome. 5 mats, 12 teams taking on one another. And the way the schedule kind of worked out, or the way the bracket kind of worked out, not everybody met everybody else. I think everyone saw everyone, or most of those teams, except I think maybe one didn't clash, one didn't kind of compete against one another. But otherwise, most of the kids kind of clashed, and we didn't have a ton of undefeated wrestlers when all was said and done. In fact, I think the number that were unbeaten were 17, and there were 2 weights, 145 and 152, where it was just an absolute grind, and not a single individual came away unscathed in terms of being unbeaten. Now, I'm classifying unbeaten as those individuals who had 5 or more matches, because like Tyler Knox, who isn't a Southeast kid, wrestled fantastic day 1, but was banged up coming into day 2 and didn't compete. He was 4-0 after day 1, but he is excluded from that list. In the team race, it was really interesting. Dynasty and Minions ended up on the top side. Carnage and Spartan, or Beast of the East, ended up on the bottom side, and both fought. They got through the first rounds. Minions had probably the toughest first round match against Powa, but then we got those matchups with Dynasty and Minions, and Carnage and Spartan. Fantastic. Came down to the last couple of matches. You should go back and watch it if you get the opportunity. But Minions and Spartan ended up getting through, which ended up us not having a rematch, or having a rematch of the pool finals between those 2 teams. So that's why we didn't get a, say, Carnage versus Minions match, or a Dynasty versus Spartan / Beast of the East match. So that's why we end up with a couple that are unbeaten. Or a couple, like there might be, I think there are 4 weight classes. 4 weight classes where there were 2 wrestlers who went unbeaten. At 138, I know it was Vince Bazakis and Cooper Hawes, who wrestled for Black Mambas, was unbeaten, wrestled fantastic, had some outstanding wins. We had 2 undefeated at 160 as well. At 195, I know Gabe Arnold and Braden Thompson both split time up at 182 and 195 for Minions. And then 220, you had Colbert and Sorensen, who are not from the Southeast, who were unbeaten up there. But for the most part, 17 unbeaten wrestlers over the course of the day, of the 2 days. We saw top 5 matchups against one another, like one right after the other. We saw wrestlers who were ranked in the top 10 who finished less than 500 wins, so they went 3-4 or something along those lines. That's how good this tournament is, and that's one of the reasons why when we get to talking about later some of the Southeast kids, I'm not going to actually put up their records. And the reason I'm not going to put up their records is it requires context. You might see someone with a record of 2-5 and not really understand that, 3 of those 5 losses came to kids who were ranked in the top 10 or whatever. So I think it's a hats off to all of them who went out and competed for the different teams here in the Southeast, because they wrestled outstanding. No matter how they fared on the weekend, the level of competition was simply outstanding. And you could totally tell that based upon the number of coaches that were walking around, college coaches who were walking around on the floor, spending a great deal of time watching these fantastic athletes compete. So without further ado, what I'm going to do is we're going to jump into just some highlights of 9 matches, and it's not the full match and everything else, but I just want to give you a key or a clue into kind of some of the action that happened this weekend. And our first matchup is Joe Seeley and Tyler Seeley.
Out of Columbus, Georgia, 18-15 right now. For Spartan RTC Elite. Sequoia also a 2021 Fargo All-American.
And as you can see, Seeley took control of that match with that takedown, and he ended up beating Tyler not once, but twice. Sequoia, Georgia Hammer, was in the match. Wasn't super close. I think he got majored in one of the 2 matches that he had against Seeley. The other match he kept closer to a regular decision. But it just goes to show you how really talented Joe Seeley is. And I highlighted him as well because currently he's at Lake Highland Prep, although there was a lot of talk about him heading back to Wyoming Sem. So I have no idea if he'll be in Florida this year for Lake Highland Prep or not. So anyway, rumors abound. Let's jump to the next match, and this is Florida or Countryside's Brian Barbarija versus Kingsley Menifee from Virginia.
Ziola. Texas team scored 25-12 in favor of Dynasty. Maria. 4-1.
And as you can see, Brian Barbarija had a fantastic weekend for Team Carnage. He wrestled outstanding, beat some absolutely very talented wrestlers, one of which was Kingsley Menifee. He wrestled superb up at 195 pounds for Team Carnage. Let's jump over to 152, and Georgia wrestler Latrell Schaefer. In this match, he's taking on Oklahoma's Cody Routledge. I think Cody was a top 10 wrestler, and I believe Latrell came away with the win. I'm not sure if he finished 4-3 on the weekend. I know he had 2 losses to Alessio Parrington, but like that 152-pound weight class was a grind, and I think in this match, Latrell gets the win over a really, really tough Cody Routledge. Yeah, so Latrell, he beat Ladarian Lockett as well from Oklahoma. I think he actually beat all 3 of the Oklahoma Hammers, but he did take a couple losses as well. Again, a super grind as far as the top-level competition at 152 pounds. Really back-and-forth matches, very, very close matches. All right, let's jump to 145, and wrestling for Combat Athletics was Colin Duple from Tennessee, who had a really, really good weekend. I didn't get a very good shot of his match against Joel Adams, which he took the win in. This is a match against Wesley, I think it's Wesley Dalton, and I think he takes the loss in this match. But again, you beat the number 3 kid in the country, but you turn around and you lose to the number, 10 kid in the country. Again, a pretty good illustration of the level of competition. So there's a clip from Colin's match. And it was a really, really good match. Colin, I think, battled to a 5-2 record at 145 pounds this weekend. He wrestled superb, wrestling for Combat Athletics. Combat had had quite a few kids from the Southeast, North Carolina club, obviously, and we'll touch on them in a little bit. But yeah, Colin really stepped up and wrestled super, super well. All right, let's jump over back to a Minions kid and a Georgia/Tennessee Logan Paradise, since he is now at Baylor. And this is him against Brady Rourke of Missouri.
Good hold.
And I think Logan got the win in this match against Brady Rourke. Brady was or is currently ranked. Logan, at 132 pounds, there were a lot of hammers, and Logan more than held his own all weekend long. He took some losses, but he battled in every single match, came back with some fantastic wins. And yeah, you should totally go check out some of his matches from this past weekend. Next up, this is a fun one because this is a North Carolina, South Carolina top 113 pounders, not only in the Southeast, but two of the best in the country with J.J. Peace and Cam Stinson. J.J. Peace of Cane Bay, South Carolina, Cam Stinson of Mallard Creek in North Carolina.
Number 1, the Colin Duple has some questions down there. Close to the
There you go, Jake.
looking for the next big thing, black strategy.
And yeah, JJ Peace got the takedown, took care of some business there. Wrestled Stinson really tough, got the win. 113 was a really good weight class. I think Bo Bassett was in the weight class, and yeah, and I know Bo Bassett was in the weight class because he beat JJ pretty handily. I don't think Stinson got a shot at Bo Bassett, but yeah, it was a really great weight class. I think JJ finished 5-2. I'm not sure what Cam finished for Spartan, Beast of the East, but yeah, he ended up on the winning team, so he certainly contributed to their ability to take the team title away from Team Minions this year. All right, next up is Cooper Hilton, and let's see, who did Cooper wrestle here? And Nate Desmond. So if you don't know, Nathan Desmond is a top 10 ranked wrestler from Pennsylvania. I believe I think they wrestled twice, with Cooper coming out on top both times. Here's a clip.
Single one, Cooper Hilton over there. On mat 4.
Yeah, so they wrestled at the end of day 1 and at the end of day 2. Cooper, I think, only had one loss on the weekend, and that was to Cale Larritson of Nebraska. Otherwise, I believe he finished 6-1, wrestled extremely well, beating a very good Nate Desmond. All right, jumping to the next one, and our second to last one, and this is Cooper Hawes of Osceola High School in Florida. Cooper might have been the only one on this list, except for Joe Seeley, so far, who ended up unbeaten on the weekend. 7-0, beat some outstanding wrestlers, and this is him against California's Reggie Reyes. Yeah, so Cooper had quite a motor this weekend. He was a takedown machine. Really came in and set the tone, wrestling at an extremely high level. We didn't get the opportunity to see him versus Vince Bazakis. Both of them ended up unbeaten at 138. One of the few weights that actually had both two wrestlers that were unbeaten. But Cooper showed that he can compete with anyone, beat 2 or 3 nationally ranked kids, and definitely think that he will pop up the next time rankings are put out by either Matt Scouts or Flo. And our last one is another Florida kid, and that is Jensen Beach's Sebastian De Janeiro. Here he is wrestling Chris Kaiser. And Sebastian wrestled fantastic for Team Minions. He beat Cam Stinson twice. He beat Chris Kaiser, Oklahoma State champion, in the match you just saw. And I think he took a loss to Bo Bartlett. But other than that, Bo Bassett. Excuse me. Yeah, Bo Bassett. But he wrestled outstanding. Had a really, really great weekend. And I got a few different clips of him as well. Let's jump over to other wrestlers or wrestlers that recognizing the Southeast. First and foremost, for Arsenal, and I wanted to get a clip of Max Norman, who also wrestled extremely well. But the clip that I had of Max didn't actually come out very well. It was blocked for most of the time. So. But Max wrestled extremely well for Team Arsenal, as did Maddox MacArthur and Alabama's Desmond Nesbitt. Stepping up for Beast Coast was J.J. Peace at 113, Christian Fretwell from Lake Gibson, and Connor McCloskey from Buford. All wrestled extremely well. Black Mambas had Cooper Hawes, we've already mentioned, Cole Carter from Alabama, Nelson Toro from, I think, Harmony in Florida. Spartan, we've already mentioned Cam Stinson and Joe Seeley. Carnage, Tito Solorzano wrestled exceptionally well as well. Wanted to include a clip of his. I'm not sure I have one of Tito, but he bumped between 160 and 170 for Team Carnage when necessary, and wrestled great, as did Brian Barbarija, who I've already mentioned. And then, our two teams that were primarily made up of Southeast wrestlers. And that is Team Minions, obviously. Axel Ritchie, Tennessee. De Janeiro. Cooper Hilton, also from Tennessee. Drew Gorman from Georgia. Paradise. Hayden Whidden, another Lake Gibson wrestler. Latrell Schaefer, Tyler Secoy, Anthony Manella. Both Georgia guys there. Aiden Bruneau, a Tennessee wrestler. Gabe Arnold, Georgia/Pennsylvania/Iowa. But definitely have to throw Gabe on here because he definitely represents Georgia whenever possible. Luke Cochran, can't say enough really good things about Luke Cochran. Christian Carroll did not end up showing up for Minions at 220. That left Minions in a bind. Braden Thompson and Gabe Arnold both bumped up on occasion from 82 to 95. That put Luke Cochran in the tough position of having to bump up to 220. And he wrestled his butt off, wrestled extremely well, and kept them on the path to comeback wins in many maybe not many matches, but certainly in their match against Dynasty when the team got down big early, and they had to keep the ball rolling. And then Ethan Vergara, who put the exclamation point on that win over Dynasty. Without him there, and he wrestled extremely well. Minions don't book their ticket back to the finals against Spartan, Beast of the East. And then over to Combat Athletics, Ollie McPhillips, who got banged up early, but hopefully he's back after after having to scratch after a few matches, I think, on day one. Liam Davis wrestled extremely well. Lake Highland Prep kid. Cooper Davis, North Carolina, Cox Mill, I believe, wrestled extremely well as well. Zeno Moore, Lake Highland Prep. Aldo Hernandez also wrestled extremely well at a very, very difficult 132 pounds. He had some really, really good wins. Colin Duple, I've already mentioned. Jeremiah Price at 152. It was that grinder at 152 where people were, I think Price had like 4 losses all by a point or in sudden victory or something extremely close, which, that's tough. That's tough. You lose to the number 2 kid in the country, Ladarian Lockett, in overtime on a takedown is tough. Greg Merriman at 160, Hunter Testa at 170, both North Carolina studs, as well as 182 is Thomas Brooker, who wrestled really, really well. It was another really good weight class. 195, Rob Atwood came over from Tennessee. You have Devin Medina, also from Tennessee. And running out the Southeast contingent was Nathan Carnes from Combat Athletics, also a North Carolina kid. I don't know. I could have missed some Southeast kids in the mix there. I don't typically count Jax Forrest because he's still out of state, up in Pennsylvania. But yeah, really, really good weekend of wrestling by everyone involved. And I hope to have the highlight clip of a bunch of matches, including non-Southeast kids, posted either Tuesday or Wednesday. And if you missed it, I'm sorry you missed it. It was a fantastic weekend. Look for later this week, I'm going to start breaking down the preview for the Grappler Fall Classic up in Kalamazoo, Michigan, where a bunch of Southeast Hammers are headed there this weekend, assuming that the hurricane doesn't hit and all of our travel plans don't get decimated by that situation. So go check out the Elite Eight. I bet you can still find a ton of those matches, high-level wrestling, on either their website or in Flow Wrestling. All right, you guys have a great day.